All right, guys, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Homefront Podcast. We're back in the studio. We're off of Zoom today, so you can enjoy the nice quality. Brooke, how you doing?
Good. I have my little girl here with me, and she is wearing a jean jacket. We match. Oh, she's so pretty.
She comes everywhere with Brooke.
Yes.
She's a staple.
We're a package. If you
Package
hire
deal.
me, you hire Abby.
All right. Anyways, let's get into some real estate stuff. I guess this fall market is here.
Are we in fall? No, we're still in summer.
We're still in summer, but the fall market kind of starts after Labor Day. So
I listed a house 2 days ago and got an offer within 24 hours.
you're the only person in Canada to get an offer, I think. I'm just kidding.
You know what's funny is that a couple months ago, I had a listing on the same street and it got an offer within 24 hours.
It's a good
So,
street. Yeah.
yeah, there's some pockets
Pockets, yeah.
where if you are in a certain pocket, you sell. Doesn't matter.
100%.
Even if you're
Well, not if you're overpriced.
not
but-
if you're overpriced.
But you're going to
but-
get some action for sure. Yeah.
for sure.
That's good. That's good. Anyways, I think I've talked to a lot of realtors just in other markets too, and they're really slow. So the market's slow still, but we will talk about some good things and some bad things coming up. So here's the first one. Here's the first headline. Canadian rent growth slows to almost 3-year low. It's not been your typical summer for the Canadian rental market. Generally speaking, markets across the country heat up come June, kind of, not really. But as leases come up for renewal and post-secondary students map out their plans for the fall and stay steamy through the end of August, the summer, however, things have been a little different. Rent growth has incrementally slowed to a crawl. A new report from Rentals.ca and Urban Nation released Tuesday shows that asking rent across all property types in Canada averaged $2,187 last month, marking a year-over-year increase of just 3.3%. That same metric clocked in at 9.3% in May, 7% in June, and 5.9% in July, and it also represents the slowest rate of annual rent inflation in 34 months. Since reaching a record high of $2,202 per month in May of 2024, average asking rents in Canada declined by 0.7% outside of the COVID-19 pandemic period. It's historically irregular for rents to decline at this time of the year. As for why we're seeing this downtrend play out, Urban Nation president says it's a combination of more supply being built, as well as a rollback in demand from population-related changes in government policies. The report additionally points out softening labor market. So yeah, what we're seeing is a softening rental market in Ontario and Vancouver. Historically, it usually just goes up in this straight line, but we're seeing kind of a decline in rents.
It's crazy because usually when I'm slow with buyers and sellers, and that typically happens in the summer, always, like that's usually when I take vacation time, but my rental listings fly off the shelf, usually even in August because September is the start of the school year. I'm finding that even when I speak to the team, it's like the market's slow for, listings, buyers kind of just taking their time still, but then also rental listings being slow. So that's why I think a lot of realtors are like, oh my God, this is a wake-up call, because it's usually a teeter-totter.
Yeah.
Right? So when rental is high, that usually means that listings are slower, and that usually pertains to interest rates. And then when buying and selling is high, typically more people are looking to get into the market than rent. But with both of them being slow, that's why I think people, especially in our industry, are like, oh my God, like nothing's going on, because both of them are slow at the same time.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because we're having the number of people come to Canada. It was 1.2 million. Now we're drastically dropping those numbers, right?
Yeah.
So you're seeing this decline in rent, which is a good thing in my opinion, because like a lot of people who rent are trying to save up to buy one day, but with rent prices being so high, you won't be able to buy. Like you're
you're
just going to paycheck to paycheck. And people who do want to rent, like they're like, I just want to rent for the rest of my life. Seeing these drastic increases, like say the landlord comes knocking, you've been there for 5 years, all of a sudden your expenses for housing just went up 50%,
right,
because you've been stuck in this, rent controlled property. Now you're going into something different. So
yeah, like I look at the townhouse that I was renting, South Burlington or South Oakville, I guess it was.
Burloak there.
$4,000 a month plus utilities, right? And tenant insurance. So you times that by 12, now that's over 50 grand after bills.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, well, can 50 grand buy you a starter home if I was just to stay with my parents for a year? And like, if I was a first time buyer, yes, 50 grand can afford you. Like 25 grand is your minimum down payment for a $500,000 condo, where
You're
condos
paying
are
into.
actually priced. Like you can get a good deal for a condo right now.
Yeah.
So that 50 grand could like just staying that extra year. However, some people say, well, I don't want to buy, a condo for 500 grand. If my mortgage payment is going to be 3,500, I can rent the same one for 2,500. And so my response to them is the only way it makes sense buying versus renting, because I see your mortgage payment's way more. So your quality of life decreases if more money's out the window to your mortgage payment. We need to make sure that where you're buying is somewhere that has had such a dip where you can expect your home/investment to grow more than that increase that you're paying per month. So in this specific case, 2,500 to rent, 3,500 to own, that $1,000 extra per month, you hope that your condo is appreciating more than that lump sum. So then you end up getting it back at the end when you sell and, upgrade to a townhouse, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that it really depends on like what you think is going to happen. Like that's why we do the show, is to like kind of help you make an educated guess. Like if you're just of the mindset that you think real estate's going to go down even more in some of these areas, then yeah, wait, like keep renting. But I was looking at like how far some of these properties have fallen from the top, and yeah, there's a lot of areas that have had 20% plus drops. So maybe that's the top, maybe it's not. Who knows? But yeah, you make a good point. Either you want to rent or you want to buy something, and yeah, saving up is not easy right now. Also, another thing contributing to it is a lot of new constructions being completed. So you're seeing a lot more units come on that were built in 2021 and such. So yes, we will see. All right, you want to read the next one there?
Yes, I sure do. Podcast notes.
It's a little long, but it's
oh my God. Please read. You're so funny. Okay. Pierre Poilievre wants to cap population growth to rein in housing costs. Conservation leader Pierre Poilievre.
Conservative leader.
Oh, why did I read it? Conservation. Jesus. You know what? You know what's funny? Just off topic. I keep complaining about my eyes. For the longest time, up until I was 28, I had perfect vision, and now it's like my eyes are not good.
The dirty 30.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I might need glasses.
You got to go get tested.
Laser eye surgery. Anyways, conservative leader says he wants to cap population growth to rein in housing costs as the Liberal minority government signals it is considering whether to reduce immigration levels. At a news conference on Parliament Hill Wednesday, Poilievre pledged that a future Conservative government under his leadership would limit the rapid growth of Canada's population, which has been fueled by new immigrants in recent years, to make sure it doesn't outpace new housing construction. Was that so hard? That's not even a question of whether you support or not immigration. It is a question of whether you support mathematics. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not that hard.
I know. Yeah, it's not that hard when you just break it down.
Hilarious. Humans need homes, and I don't care where they come from. It doesn't matter if you've been here for 2 days or your family's been here for 2 centuries. You need a place to live, he added. The only way to get rid of the shortage is to build homes faster than we add people, and that's why we will have a mathematical formula that caps population growth below the growth in the housing stock. Poilievre also suggested he would prolong the Liberal government's recent moves to limit international student visas to ease pressure on housing costs. Excellent. We're making
progress.
Forward.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people were waiting for Pierre to kind of open up about what his stance was on immigration, because he was kind of like not talking about it. But I think that because you're like kind of waiting for an election, right? You're like, I don't want to put all my policies out there,
right? Because
then they're going to copy my policies potentially, like we've kind of seen Trudeau do with some of Pierre Poilievre.
I agree. I think that they're handling his campaign quite well. Like, the way he talks sometimes, I find that he can be a little bit far right, which is like, all right,
I think he's just calm down a little bit. He's very to the point, which is...
Yeah, and I don't love that. Like, really... He's just going along, like you log on TikTok and you type in Justin Trudeau and it's just like slander and this. And I understand where it's coming from. I do. Yeah. Like people are hurting. But then Pierre jumping on that train and then it's just hostility and like one against the other and divided.
Really
and it's
like, he's got really good slogans.
Oh my God.
Like his one sellout saying is just, it sticks. Like he just has these funny slogans. And I did a little bit more diving into like understanding politics and understanding the seats. So in Canada, there's like 330 seats or something like that. I think it's 338. So each province gets a certain amount of seats. So it's based off
like
population.
Electoral votes.
Yeah, so it's based off population. So Ontario gets the most seats. Quebec has the second most seats. British Columbia has the third most seats. And then, smaller provinces like PI has 4 seats. The territories each get 1 seat.
Is it similar to electoral votes, or that's based, the electoral votes is how much the state has in terms of
yeah, like you'd want to win over provinces
to
get the most votes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. So I think Ontario has 100 and something seats versus PI has like 4 seats.
Right.
It's just based off population for the most part, and obviously other things
that
too.
Probably like skews what he says, because, for example, PEI, your house prices aren't crazy. Like the people in different provinces are struggling differently. You go to Saskatchewan and you're all of a sudden not, like, your rent has been pretty steady for the longest time, and like you go to North Alberta, your wages are good, your prices are good. So his speech is probably skewed to the provinces that have the most seats, and in this case it's Ontario, where most people are struggling with housing, and so it's like
but also what we've seen too is like rents in these other provinces and housing prices, like in Newfoundland and Labrador, like they were like the only province that actually went up in value in housing prices since like the top. So what you see is like people kind of like, I don't know if it's for certain, but maybe speculators are going and buying housing there because it's cheaper. Like you can get a house there in the 2 handle. So like housing is being felt across the country, which is pretty crazy to say, but it is true. But anyway, so what's happening is you try to understand this like coalition. So Trudeau has a minority government. So he has, if you have 170 seats and above, you have a majority. So you can pass things through easier.
Yeah.
Trudeau has less than that. So we called up Jagmeet. Jagmeet goes, sure, I'll team with you.
So that they have more seats.
Yeah, if you care about dental and if you do this and you pass this through. So Jagmeet has taken that away. He's saying, okay, I'm not teaming up with you anymore. So the latest projection, so the Liberals had, these are pollings, but the Liberals had roughly 100, I think they had 160 seats after 2021. Mm-hmm. They are projected to have 40 seats.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was paired with the NDP, right?
No, like this isn't paired with the NDP.
Well, was it paired when it was 100?
No, it was 160. Yeah,
okay,
not paired. So you need over 170 to have a majority and push things through, like the carbon tax.
Right. And so he did push the carbon tax through. So when he called that election 2 years ago or whenever,
he was trying to get a majority.
And he didn't get it.
No, so he gained like 2 more seats. So I think he had like 156 or 158, and then he got 170. So he got 2 or 4 seats, something like that. So it wasn't worth it. So Pierre is projected to get roughly 240 seats, which is like way above the 170.
Way majority. So you can be in a government with a minority in the House of Commons.
It just is harder to pass things through. So if Pierre gets in with this huge landslide of a win, he's going to have a lot of power. Like he doesn't need a coalition.
Right.
He's going to have a lot of seats just to pass all these votes on whatever the Conservatives do want to do. So this is where Trudeau and Singh are saying, Pierre's going to make all these cuts to all the good things that we've done, like dental care and daycare. But Pierre hasn't really come out and set his platform yet because of, he's kind of waiting for an election to talk about it. And we don't know when an election is going to be. Right now, it could be called at any time. It could be, and it's supposed to be in October of 2025. It could be after Singh gets his pension. It could be before Singh gets his pension. Trudeau can call an election. The Conservatives are trying to call an election.
Sooner than next year?
Yeah, they're trying to do it like tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I think it should happen.
So we are going to see what happens.
Did you watch the Kamala and Trump?
I watched a little bit of it. I think I read a lot about it. I think that it sounded like ABC is very left.
Oh my God,
leaning. So it was like a 3-on-1. But I heard Kamala did a lot better than a lot of people expected.
She did. Well, what I found with Kamala, and I'm not gonna say I'm one way or the other. It's American politics. Me saying anything just gets me in trouble. So I find that she, in a smart way, as a debater, I would do the same thing. Is she touched on pain points with him, like, for example, everyone's leaving your rallies, and like that gets him up in smoke and takes him way off topic.
I did see him kind of rambling on about
my God. And then she'll say something else and he'll get offended and go off topic. So I do think she was trained well with people that know Trump's character, and because he has a big ego. Let's be
Oh
straight.
yeah,
Trump
yeah.
has an like
He's,
that's
he's
something I'm
he's got an ego for
for
sure.
sure. And he like throws. And then there was some things that he was saying that I was like, what? Like the immigrant population in Ohio from Haiti. You know, they are stealing people's pets and eating them. And then
I watched a documentary on it,
yeah,
and it was on YouTube, and there are people like saying like the Haitian people are taking our cats, and like a police officer pulled over um, a car and it was filled with like cats around the neighborhood. So I don't know, like I cannot confirm or deny. I just saw it on
they
Twitter because Twitter's not censored, so
right.
you
They
see everything.
released a thing on I don't know what news platform that it was that the mayor, whoever the city official was of that city in Ohio, said there has been absolutely 0 cases of this. So it's like it's just funny, but it's just like, what's the point of like where are you going with this?
I think his whole point is people want change on the borders and people want change with immigration. Like for me and Kamala, I think like she's been there for 3.5 years. Clearly Joe has been on the decline. So she's already like, she's like, when I get in, I'm going to do all these things, but you are in.
Okay, so they did do a poll and they surveyed however many Americans, and they said, do you think Kamala Harris has enough power to make these changes right now as she's the vice president? And 76, which is a huge amount, said no. So they actually, that's not even a point to people that are voting Democrat that think that she could have done it while in power, because being the vice president, they don't think that she had enough to enact change or whatever. 76% of the people didn't believe that she had control or power to put in these policies that she's speaking about while in power or while being a vice president right now, which was interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at the odds and it's basically neck and neck. I think that what it all comes down to is like the swing states is what they call it. So like Pennsylvania is like a huge state with a lot of seats.
Well, they did the debate in Philadelphia, which is Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't even know. Sorry, off the top of my head. Yeah, I think you're right. But what was I going to say? Oh, but so Joe Biden is from there. So he won in the past, which is good, but Kamala does really bad with working class males. That's what the polls say. So they're thinking that Trump's going to win that state, which would be big. So you want to win like 3 of 5 states. I was watching this whole thing on it. I know we're getting off topic on American politics, but it does affect us in Canada.
You know what's crazy? Listen to this. So Trump put out something on I don't know, one of his pages that said Taylor Swift endorses him, and it was AI. So Taylor Swift, who has so much power in the state, like, let's be real, Taylor Swift is the biggest artist right now in the world. She put out a thing that said, I endorse Kamala Harris, and please register to vote, because there's a lot of people that don't vote. Here is the link to register to vote. 300,000 people used her link to register to vote and are just going to vote where she wants. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I think that if they were Taylor Swift fans, they were most likely voting for Kamala anyway.
But maybe a lot of them weren't actually going to vote.
Yeah, they might have not actually voted.
So
yeah, that's a good point.
300,000 people registered to vote. That doesn't mean they voted. They just registered to vote. They weren't registered in the system to actually put forward a vote. So they've registered to now vote 300,000. And to be honest, in a population of 30 million, it's not anything crazy. But 300,000 people just clicked on her link to register, which is
I think that people should vote, and the democracy should say that.
They said on CNN yesterday, they're like, if Taylor Swift says that you have to have a voter registration to get to her concerts, that might bring more people to vote. And that doesn't mean you have to vote for Kamala Harris. That just means you have to, if you're a U.S. citizen, you have to vote. We're a democracy. You need a voter's registration. Vote whoever you want, but you need to actually put a vote forward, because the people that don't vote are doing more harm than, like, apathy is not a good thing for a country. Like, you need to
get out there and try and I don't know, at least put your vote forward.
I don't think Trump's gonna win. I'm gonna say it right now. It's a prediction.
I think Trump's gonna win.
Okay, let's bet.
When's
the election in November?
You still owe me up from the last bets. Yeah. I bet you on something else.
Okay, let's bet something big though.
Real quick, back to I just want to read the last one here because it kind of ties in with it. So Trudeau came out, and I guess he's just trying to throw anything against the wall and see what sticks. So he hired the former Bank of Canada. His name's Mark Carney. So Mark Carney is joining the Liberal Party as an economic advisor to try and boost polling numbers. He was the governor of Canada. So he's like our Tiff Macklin today in 2008 to 2013. So he actually guided Canada's economy through the 2008 financial crisis. He earned a lot of praise for his policies that helped the country avoid the worst downturn that an economy's seen. So he's trying to push ahead and get some people under his belt to try and boost his polling numbers. So Mark Carney is joining the Liberal Party. I don't know if it's going to do a lot, but yeah, that's a little bit about Mark Carney, is that he's also the Bank of England's governor as well for a little bit as well. So he's got some good economic experience in that realm. So we shall see what that does. But yeah. Okay, what do we got here? Last one?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, Canada's young adults, that one.
Canada's young adults. Right. Canadian young adults facing soaring unemployment and unaffordable housing, says BMO.
I know, so.
A new research note from BMO Capital Markets warns that young adults are facing the gruesome twosome, soaring unemployment and unaffordable housing. The combination has created an environment on par with the country's worst recessions. It's an issue largely slipping under the radar, but considering how fast the wheels are falling off the economy, it may be time to start paying attention. Canadian unemployment is rising at an unusually rapid pace, but almost exclusively for young adults. The youth, 15 to 24 years old, unemployment rate has climbed to 14.5% in August. Well, they probably all live with their parents at that age, or are in university or school.
15
I didn't have a job when I was in university.
To 24. Yeah, but like, I mean, I had a job when I worked, like,
but some people
landscaping.
Don't need, like, if your parents, like mine did, paid for your university and your housing.
Yeah, but it's still the highest in a decade. So like
Okay.
that says something.
Young adults facing a bad job market is a worrying trend by itself, but it's a much bigger problem with the existing housing woes. Pre-pandemic housing was already out of reach in major cities, but now that lack of affordability is a countrywide trend. For young people, it's A, now tough to find a job, and then presumably later on, B, tough to find an affordable place to live. And the combination of the two is about as challenging as the early 80s and or early 90s, warns Porter. Back in the 80s and 90s, the affordability issues were resolved relatively fast with home prices crashing. Just a few years were out of whack, followed by a long period of affordability. For example, Toronto real estate took 22 years to return to the inflation-adjusted peak of home prices in the early 90s. Wow. Yeah. That makes sense, though, because in the 90s up until like 2010, like things stayed and traded sideways for a long time. And then all of a sudden, our generation has really only seen, like, for the past 8 years is really when everybody really started talking about housing. Before then, it wasn't necessarily as talked about amongst the generation. It was just housing was over here because it was always fine. And so in the last 8 years, we saw major peaks and then tons of immigration. So it's been such a buzz topic for so long that people haven't seen the markets trade sideways for long periods of time. It's either up or down, and people are expecting one or the other, not realizing that in history, trading sideways for 20 years, that was a normal thing. And of course, there's, ups and downs a little bit like this, but nothing like up and down, like peaks and valleys. It was just kind of like little.
Yeah, we've kind of just been on this, like, almost like a rocket ship upwards, which is, I don't think it's a good thing. And I wonder what's going to happen in the future, because I think, like, who is the next person to buy the semi in Toronto off the person who bought it for, 1.5, 1.8, 2 million? Who's the next person to buy it? How do they afford it? That's a big question.
And even still with Trudeau's tax laws, the money in our cities is leaving. People don't want to be millionaires. Like, you go to Miami and the amount of wealth and just like
Dubai as well.
Right. The amount of wealth there, it's just like those cities have enough wealth that things don't even sit. Like major cities in the world, London, Miami, like Los Angeles, house prices are even more elevated than Toronto. But
it's the first time I've really seen people, like, throughout my whole life be like, I'm looking to get a job in the States, or I'm looking to move to Europe. This is where you just wonder, like, okay, if all the talent is leaving, like even in healthcare, right? Like nurse practitioners are going to the States too. You see all these people leaving, like, where's the next home buyer is kind of the question, which kind of scares me a bit.
Yeah.
And how low can you drop interest rates to make up for it? I don't know. It kind of feels like we're in this little bit of a silent depression where, yes, inflation's coming down.
It's not named, so it's silent, but everybody's
inflation's coming down, and I feel like Chrystia Freeland gaslights Canadians, saying, the Bank of Canada dropped rates 25 basis points, inflation's coming down. But what about, like, the 20% it's up since COVID, right? And like that's what the number, like we're not going back to the cheap, gas prices that we saw, or the cheap grocery prices that we saw, right? It's like, yeah, year over year inflation's 2.5%,
but it's still growing.
It's still growing.
We would need disinflation.
We would need disinflation for it to.
Or is it deflation?
For us to get, deflation. For us, you're right, deflation. For us to get back to those prices,
it would need to be in
2018, 2019, 2020, like, right? Like
inflation would need to be negative 2%. That's never happening.
Yeah. Well, they don't. Yeah. What they say is that if you have disinflation, then your economy's not. You're not spending enough within your economy. So, but I don't know. For me, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the whole thing. But I just feel like when she comes on and she talks to someone who's not really in tune with the economy, they might sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, we do have it good." Like our bank was the first bank to cut, and our bank, our inflation is in 2% now. But it was at one point it was 8%. It's not like that 8% has vanished now.
No, it was grew at 8%, and now that's the new norm. Now it's growing at 2%. So
exactly.
That 8% didn't go back down. That was like the norm. Now it's still growing.
So your paycheck is now not going as far because of the inflation tax that we're seeing. Plus, we have really high taxes to begin with.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not trying to be a doomer. I'm just pointing out the obvious is like how do we get back to that place where everyone feels like, okay, let's go out and spend, or let's go out or we have savings here, or we're making enough to get by, or we can have children and stuff like that. And just real quick, I know Poilievre was talking about matching the number of the units built to the population. Well, if we're building bachelor pads, like, no, like it can't be.
Yeah, true.
So like, what are we going to connect it to? Are we going to connect it to like 3-bedroom homes, 2-bedroom homes? Like what's the metric going to be? So I do look forward to some of his policies in the future. And
the last stat to like speak on that is 40% of Canadians own their home outright, and a third of Canadians rent. So the people that are struggling to get into the market, and first-time buyers that maybe bought in the peak and they've lost value, that's only 25%, like, or less, because it's really people that bought after 2019 that are really struggling with their mortgage payments. If you bought before you have equity, you can likely downsize if your mortgage payment has gone up a ton. So it's just such a buzzword because in the GTA and Vancouver, we feel it the most. But keep in mind, 40% of Canadians own their home outright. They don't want to see their home values decrease. They don't.
But there's some of them that'll never move too, right? Like they're older, like the empty bedrooms that we talked about. Like my old neighbor, he's 80, 85, 86. He has a 4-bedroom home and he's never leaving. Like he doesn't even sleep in the bedrooms upstairs. He made a living room into a bedroom because he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
So you have those people that are just going to hang on, which doesn't help the housing supply.
Yeah.
But anyways,
interesting.
There's always lots to cover, it feels like.
Unplug it.
Anyways, guys, that's about it for this week's episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're getting more calls booked, which is awesome. So if you do want to work with us, you can book a call down below.
Or even just putting a plan together, which I've liked to do. Like, so we do 12-month projections. Okay, where are we at now? Are there ways to maybe increase your savings with a GIC, like whatever it is, to get you to the 12-month mark? So if you don't have a clear and precise plan with where you want to be in a certain amount of years in the market, you're not going to get there. So planning has been the majority of our calls. And even if you're not looking to buy for 2 years, let's get a plan in place.
Yeah.
Let's kind of connect the dots and see what the roadmap is to get you to where your goal is. And that's a huge part of our job, right? Is education. I don't want to sell you a house tomorrow if you don't feel educated on the entire economy, right? Let's put a plan. Let's kind of map your whole situation out and get you to where you want to be in 2 years, in 5 years.
Yeah. We just want to touch base with you guys, have conversations, and see if we can help. If you want to support us that way, you can click the first link. If not, just like and subscribe to the channel and leave us a review. That obviously helps so much. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode and enjoy the information. That's all we got for you. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.